I don't think it's any stretch of the imagination to say that LEGO Adventures is one of the company's most iconic themes. Even if you weren't alive when the adventure sets were being released, you'd probably still recognize the face of Johnny Thunder. That being said, I think a lot of people don't realize that this beloved theme was actually rebooted in 2011. And that came in the form of Pharaoh's Quest, a single wave of playsets and a number of gear items that came and went like nothing. Today we're going to revisit this theme, see how it compares to the classic Adventurer sets, and see also what it brings to LEGO as a whole. So hey, let's take a closer look. Pharaoh's Quest mirrors Adventurers in so many ways, going down to the point as far as the cast is nearly identical. Their names have just been changed around. There's no Baron von Baron, Sam Sinister, but rather the villain this time is Amset-Ra, an evil pharaoh of Egypt. I'm not going to go too much into the lore and the story that gets these adventurers from location to location. I actually just came across a video by Brother from Another Brick who breaks down the comics very thoroughly, and I'd encourage you to take a look at that video if you are interested in the story that this line has. What you need to know, though, is that each of the main playsets comes with a treasure. And the idea is that if the evil mummy, Amset-Ra, gets the hold of all of these treasures, he can take over the world. It's up to the adventurers to stop that from happening. And that all starts out with the smallest playset of the wave, which is SCARAB Attack. There's 44 pieces here all together, and this set would have retailed for $4.99 here in the US. A new copy, though, is going to set you back $30, but you can pick one up used for about $8. The figure featured here is Jake Raines, who basically is our stand-in for Johnny Thunder. He's basically a modernized version of Johnny Thunder with a new name, even with a similar storm-related element, rain instead of thunder. His sideburns are remarkably similar to Johnny himself, but there's something about this character which just isn't quite as likable as the original. Maybe the inclusion of a hat would have helped. There's something in his smirk and his overconfident expression that definitely rubs me the wrong way. His bio on Lego.com described him as being a bit hot-headed, intending to get himself into trouble. Why does he have such a punchable face? Speaking of faces, he does not have an alternate face. In fact, only one of our heroes actually will have an alternate face, and we'll get to meet her later on. Jake is given a small campsite, including a nice chicken leg and a coffee cup over the fire, and he also has a crate with some extra accessories. And that's what I noticed right away when I got this set, is that it does something adventurers did very well. It packs these sets with a lot of accessories. I definitely think this is the best percentage of pieces dedicated to accessory set in the wave. But I really like that that has carried over from Adventures, as I thought that was probably the best part of LEGO Adventures, was all the cool accessories that they had for your figures. Who doesn't love cool pieces? Speaking of cool pieces here, you'll probably make note of this crystal. This is one of the 6 treasures I was talking about earlier. According to the Pharaoh's Quest lore, the golden crystal gives the Pharaoh the ability to control desert beasts, one of them being the SCARAB. First of all, plenty of posability, with all the legs being individually posable, but he also has 2 really nice printed pieces with some hieroglyphs on his back and some brick detailing. It looks really, really great. Of course, those are printed because they go over multiple different curves and slopes, and it wouldn't be possible to cover these with a single sticker, and so LEGO has developed printed pieces instead. We'll see a few more instances like this, especially for the creatures, but there also will be stickers throughout this theme too. This set was a great start to Pharaoh's Quest as a theme, and shows us a lot of the things that we'll be seeing again and again. Lots of accessories, some really great prints, and some really great creatures. And one thing we'll also be seeing a lot of, Jake Raines. Anyway, on to the next set. Set 7306 Golden Staff Guardians is probably one of my favorite sets in the theme. This is a total of 70 pieces, retailed for $10 in the US. A new one's gonna cost you more like $45, and a used one will probably cost under $20. This is definitely a $10 set done right. First off, we get 3 minifigures. Our first one is Mac McCloud. I don't think he's based off any Adventurers character in particular, but do correct me if I'm wrong. But he does feature a similar weather-based name in the form of McCloud, of course. His Lego.com bio had a few things of note to say about him, including that he apparently is the most unlucky adventurer in the world. However, he's also a great mechanic and great driver. Our other 2 minifigures here are fantastic. These are our first mummy warriors. First off, I love that we get printed legs for these guys. That's a luxury we don't get from many licensed themes these days. Printed legs for mummies in Pharaoh's Quest really is standard. They're wearing the headdress pieces that were introduced with the Adventurers line, but they have 2 new molds as well for the sword and for the SCARAB shield, both which look great. They're done in dark pearl gray. One thing that's really fun about these guys is that they do have double-sided heads. One side of the head has 2 eyes and the other has 1. The other eye is covered by bandages. It's a really cool effect and gives some variety to this army building character. We'll see many more versions of these mummies, but these, in my opinion, are some of the best just because of their accessories. Mac McCloud is given a bike. The bike is actually really cool. It's a very specialized piece. I'm pretty sure it was introduced with Indiana Jones, and it starts the dark red color scheme for the good guy vehicles. There's some modifications made to this bike in the form of headlights on the front and some places to clip on accessories in the back, plus a little taillight. The tires are thick enough that it can be balanced on its own pretty easily. Then there's our main build itself, where the staff is housed. The staff is the second treasure, and the special ability granted by this one is the protection of Pharaoh's undead armies. While he wields this staff, no harm can come to his mummy warriors. That's pretty overpowered if you ask me. So there is a simple play function associated with the set, in that on the back you can punch out the staff just like that. I like this piece of architecture too. It's super simple but solid color scheme, and I like the addition of the tri-leaf piece down here, something we'll be seeing continuously throughout the rest of the Pharaoh's Quest sets. This one checks all the boxes for me. Some great army enemy building figures, a practical and very good looking vehicle for our hero, a few extra accessories, and a very solid build with a desirable treasure piece on it. $10 sets have always been the best LEGO sets ever produced. And that was definitely still the case well over a decade ago in 2011. Next up is 7307 Flying Mummy Attack. This set has a total of 125 pieces, retailed for $19.99 US, but it's going to set you back about $80 to get this thing new and about $30 if you want it used. This set continues the trend of giving us 3 minifigures, which I think is totally fine, especially when the minifigures are as cool as the ones we get. So let's take a look at those right away. We get a new variant of Jake Raines, this time in his pilot gear. He actually has a nice jacket for this, as well as a very familiar aviator cap and goggles. I do like the jacket, and it's nice that we get multiple versions of this character, because trust me, we're going to be seeing him quite a bit yet. The winged mummies are absolutely fantastic. The wings, of course, aren't movable, but I really don't mind because they look so good. But there are 2 of those flying mummies here. Each mummy has a pearl dark gray spear as well. We get another vehicle in this set too. This is Jake Raines' airplane here. It's got 2 printed 2x2 rounded tiles on top, which is nice, and then various stickers on the tail and the sides, naming it the spirit of Lewis. The treasure in this set is the diamond atop this tower. According to the Pharaoh's Quest lore, it gives the Pharaoh the ability to create mirages and traps of the mind for the adventurers. And it's at the top of a tower that, quote, no living creature can climb. So, hence the airplane. And what Jake cleverly does without climbing is he deploys this very interesting mechanism on the bottom of the craft, and it actually fits the gem quite nicely. A simple enough play feature, but I'm pretty satisfied with the success rate of it. You just have to be careful you don't knock down the tower. But maybe that's all part of the fun too. The tower itself is great. I love the little touch of green at the bottom. Again, it's nice to see, and of course the inclusion of dark orange here is a big plus. plus. The 1x2x5 bricks you see there do have stickers on them, not prints, but I think with the hieroglyphs there, they add a lot of value. And you can again see a lot of that familiar LEGO iconography in the form of LEGO goblets, LEGO snakes, LEGO weapons. It's really fun to see. Even the birds depicted here look a lot like the original Harry Potter LEGO owls. Even though $20 back in 2011 would have felt like a lot for just 125 pieces, there's a lot of cool stuff here, a lot of big pieces, and it doesn't matter because there's no way you're going to pick this up for $20 today anyway. But yeah, this was a quite expensive theme overall, and trust me, we'll be seeing more examples of that very soon. The next set is 7325 Cursed Cobra Statue, and did you catch that? We just skipped a ton of product numbers, and this was very intriguing to me. Was there like 20-some Pharaoh's Quest sets planned? That just never happened. But interestingly enough, the set numbers that we skipped were actually those of Life on Mars. And set number 7324 of all things was the first LEGO City Advent Calendar. Go figure. But anyway, back to this set. It has 213 pieces altogether, would have retailed for $30 here in the US. And much like the last set, it's about $80 new and just over $30 to get this one used. We get 3 minifigures yet again this time around, but this time 2 heroes and 1 villain. We've seen this variant of Jake Rains before, nothing new and exciting there, but we do get for the first time Helena Scavalling. She is basically the Pippin Reed of Pharaoh's Quest. And interestingly enough, she's the only female character in Pharaoh's Quest, and she also has a double-sided face, which I think is pretty nice. From what I saw online, apparently you could get this figure with either reddish-brown hands or yellow hands. Weird trivia. In terms of the lore, Scavalling contributes quite a bit to this team. She speaks 7 languages, apparently can read an additional 5. She's great at solving puzzles and finding hidden traps, helping to keep her fellow adventurers alive. And would you look at that, we get another vehicle in this set. This is definitely one of the less remarkable vehicles, and we'll be seeing a lot more like it, unfortunately. It uses that pre-built car cockpit piece that showed up all the time in Adventurers, which is yet another nice Adventurers tie-in, even if I don't like the piece all that much. Oh, I forgot a minifigure, and that is the Snake Charmer. Yet another mummy variant to add to the army. This guy's pretty cool. He features a unique headdress with printed snakes on it. The head, torso, and legs, again, is the same one that is used for all the mummies. And he also is wielding 2 green snakes, which I think is pretty fantastic. But those snakes pretty much pale in comparison to the larger one that's included in this set, the Cursed Cobra itself. The treasure in this set is the golden SCARAB shield. And according to LEGO.com, if Amset Ra got a hold of this shield, he would be immune to any attack. So a pretty powerful shield, and it looks great. Gotta love it. Of course, there is a big scary creature in this set, and it is the snake, which can detach from its stand. It's just held in place by a little Technic pin there in the back. The stand is mostly unremarkable, but again includes some of those hieroglyphs, which are really cool to see. All stickers, of course, but I still think they add a lot of value to these sets. So the snake is a lot of repetitive building. It's made up basically of the 2 sections repeated again and again on ball joints, but that makes it very, very malleable, which is fun to play with. And I love the gilding throughout, done with the pearl gold pieces. Though the body might be a bit repetitive, the head is far more interesting. Of course, the piece that you really can't miss is this vinyl, which is really unique, especially for this time period of LEGO, and definitely unique within the Pharaoh's Quest theme. We're seeing a lot more vinyl pieces today, I think especially of Monkey Kid, but also they showed up in the Avatar sets, they're showing up in Friends and Disney Princesses. It's a little bit all over the place, but I think this was a very effective use of such an element. First of all, it's beautifully printed on both sides, and it perfectly captures that unique cobra frill that would have been pretty hard to have done with the simple construction that makes up most of this theme. It's simply connected by 2 holes at the top and the bottom through which some studs are placed. The head, too, is a unique print, which is really cool to see. The mouth can also open a little bit, and of course everything is ball jointed, so there's no shortage of movement on this one. Again, this set would have been a bit more on the expensive side back in the day, certainly is right now, But there's a lot of cool stuff going on here, and I really like how the Cobra turned out, even if it does have some repetitive construction. I usually don't care too much for the use of vinyl pieces in LEGO sets, but I think making use of it here was really effective. It looks really cool. Great minifigure selection. Unfortunately, this is the only time we'll see Helena Skvaling, and she's awesome. I would have loved to have seen more of her too, but glad we got at least one female figure into Pharaoh's quest. But yeah, that's all for this one. On to the next set. This is set number 7326, Rise of the Sphinx. It has a total of 527 pieces, would have retailed for $49.99 here in the US, but you're looking to shell out $100 for a new copy of this, or around $60 for a used one. I've made note that a lot of the Pharaoh's Quest sets up to this point in the price per piece category were a little bit of an oof, but this one is quite nice with 527 pieces this time around, giving us a much more substantial build than we've seen in the previous sets. We'll get to that in a second. Let's take a look at the figures. Nothing too noteworthy here, as we actually have seen all these before. They're just kitted out with some different items. We get the version of Jake Raines in his jacket this time around. Again, instead of the aviator's cap, he has his regular hairpiece, and he's wielding a piece of dynamite, which will come into play very soon. We get two standard mummies with some different weapons. Unfortunately, these guys don't come with shields, which I do think is a bit of a bummer for one of the largest sets. Of the three car builds we'll see in the main line of sets, I think this one is the most fun. It's got the most character to it and is pretty well smoothed out. It's got a very nice vintage look to it. That specialized car cockpit means you can fit two minifigures in there very easily. I think my favorite part of this are the special use of the fezzes for the headlights. It just looks very refined and doesn't make use of too many pieces, so that most of them can go towards the main structure of the set, which is the Sphinx itself. Especially in the pose it is in right now, down on the ground, I think it looks really, really great. Even though 527 pieces is a good chunk of pieces, it takes that a step further by making sure most of those pieces are quite large. My favorite part of this has got to be the head. The construction techniques here are really not all that complicated. It's probably something you've seen before. The headdress itself is very simple, making use of classic slope elements to pull that off. The mouth does have a small range of motion, but I think it looks best as it is halfway open right there. Of course, it would make sense that this creature is guarding yet another treasure, and it is. To unlock that treasure, LEGO unfortunately is teaching kids to blow up beautiful historic sites with dynamite. Don't actually do this, but if you clip on the dynamite piece there and hit a little actuator in the back, you can blow apart that wall, revealing the treasure inside. This time around, we have the golden sword. The sword grants the Pharaoh the fighting ability of Egypt's greatest warriors and gives him incredible strength. I like how it is held in between the two gilded scorpions too. That's very nice. An explosion on his belly though may raise the Sphinx, as the name of the set implies. This is where the set gets not as awesome, as you lose a good chunk of the stomach girth when raising him up on all fours, and his legs come out to be a little skinny. It's not the most amazing look ever, but it's not terrible by any means. And of course, I'm glad the function is there, even if it loses some of its really striking visual presence. It exposes this part a little better, which you can see has, again, some of those stickers on the 1x2x5 bricks. Not unlike any that we've seen before, but I do really like those, and you get 4 in this set, which is pretty fantastic. Even with all its many pieces, this comes out to be a pretty simple set. Simple, straightforward, but really, really good looking. And I really appreciate that about this set. I think the minifigure selection is perhaps one of the weakest that we've seen yet. These are all repeats, and I'm sad that we don't get the shields for the mummies. It feels weird that we've continued the trend from the $10 set now to the $50 set of having just 3 minifigures per set. This set definitely could have benefited from another figure. But bear in mind, we did get a lot of big pieces for a really nice build. So there were probably some compromises that needed to be made in that department. Before we get to the flagship set of this theme, there's a few other smaller sets that I want to highlight. The first being the Skeleton Mummy Battle Pack. The minifigures included here are great, including one flying mummy, and then some snake charmers actually, which is quite interesting to me. So you get the printed headdresses instead of the regular black ones. The blister packaging itself is shaped like an Egyptian Nemesis, which is really cool. And it's always interesting to see that the minifigures come pre-built in this style of packaging. There were 2 small poly bags released, interestingly enough, as part of a promotion done with the Sun in the United Kingdom. You could get one of 2 vehicles, one being the Desert Glider, which included the aviator version of Jake Raines with the jacket on, or you could get the Desert Rover, which included the standard version of Jake Raines. Easy to put together from existing pieces, nothing too noteworthy here. There were a number of gear items also developed for the Pharaoh's Quest line, including a number of keychains, a magnet set, and also one of those weird coin banks, which made use of a lot of the same elements used in Cursed Cobra statue. But that all leads us into the largest and, quite frankly, coolest set of the entire theme, which is Scorpion Pyramid. This thing comes in at 792 pieces, would have retailed for $99.99. That's double the price of the next largest set. And this thing is hard to pick up these days. If you want one new, you're gonna look at shelling out almost $425, maybe even more depending on your country. And even to get this thing used is gonna be $225. I can tell you this is definitely the most expensive used set I have ever purchased. It's a lot, but there's good reason. There are reasons that it is the way that it is. And that mostly boils down to the minifigures, which I do think we should look at right away. Unsurprisingly, we get another version of Jake Raines in this set. In this particular set, the instructions have you give him a pistol and a pair of binoculars. We also get Mac McCloud, who has a stick of dynamite in this set. And trust me, we'll be blowing up more ancient wonders very soon. This is the first and only appearance of Professor Archibald Hale, a very clear reference to Dr. Kilroy from Adventurers. They bear a lot of similarities from the glasses to the hat. The Pharaoh's Quest lore states that he has spent nearly his entire life teaching at the university, and he stumbled upon the legend of Amset Ra while reading. He wholeheartedly believes in the mythology of it all and the dangers that come from these treasures, and wants to prevent Amset Ra from taking over the world. And so he takes charge of this expedition and putting together this team to stop the Pharaoh from getting all 6 artifacts. He has a Pharaoh's Quest exclusive printed map in his hand, which is really cool. It features Rise of the Sphinx, the Tower from Flying Mummy Attack, and then of course Scorpion Pyramid on there. Really, really nice. We also get another Flying Mummy in this set, which is great to see. I really love that design. And the most coveted figure in this set, we actually get 2 of, and those are the Anubis guards. They make use of a very specialized headpiece, which is like what is done for Star Wars Aliens. There is no head underneath. It is just a single piece that plops on over the neck. They both get those wonderful SCARAB shields, along with the new sword mold too, and feature all sorts of golden printing. And the fact that you get 2 in this set is perfection. It's a beautiful figure, and this one goes for a hefty asking price on the aftermarket, and understandably so. It's beautifully done and very desirable, and LEGO really hasn't done anything like it before or since. And of course, the set would not be complete without Amset Ra himself, which is definitely one of the most ornate LEGO mummies they've ever done. A lot of his printing is very similar to the other mummies in this set, but much more cleaned up. He's got a lot more jewelry on him, a lot more gold printing. He also has a double-sided head, which is really cool. On one side is the skeleton mummy through the cloths look, and the other is his golden face covering. Pictured here, he has the golden Nemesis on his head, which is the 6th and final treasure of Egypt. According to the lore, this gives him the power of foresight. So while he wears this, he can see into the future. We do get yet another vehicle. This one is a bit more distinct than the last two cars, featuring some treads on the back, and I think it's all right. Nothing too remarkable beyond the treaded part of it. It can hold a lot of gear, which is great. There's actually a spacious trunk in the back, and there's also a machine gun mounted on top, so that's lots of fun too. But we all came here for the big boy, and that is the Scorpion Pyramid itself. If memory serves me correctly, this is the last set to ever feature one of the specialized raised base plates. And I think raised base plates go out with a bang here. I've reviewed a few other sets that feature these really specialized plates in past videos, including Ogle's Mountain Fortress and Amazon Ancient Ruins. My biggest gripe against those two sets is that they don't really make good use of those raised base plates. Even though the raised base plate you see here was not specifically designed for this set, as it has been featured in a number of other kits throughout the years, it feels like it could have been. The designer made use of every nook and cranny available on this base plate to really sell that this set belongs on top of this base plate. With Ogle's Mountain Fortress and Amazon Ancient Ruins, the base plate just became kind of extra terrain. It didn't feel integrated into the set, but it really adds a lot of value here. Every space is used, and it's awesome. For instance, there's a pit up front that has become a scorpion pit with some treasure. It was probably added as something of an afterthought. It still feels intentional enough and makes sense. Another weird part of this specific raised base plate is this little elongated portion here, which they put an obelisk on top of, and that just makes sense to me. It balances the set out very nicely. One thing that's a bit unfortunate about this raised base plate in particular is its use of stickers. Prior to 2005, raised base plate sets all featured printing on the base plate itself, which was pretty awesome. But ever since, they've been plain or stickered. And the stickers seem to suffer here a little bit. If you look up a copy of this set on eBay, I guarantee that more than half of them will feature peeling stickers, probably due to the more rough texture of the base plate itself. The stickers just don't stick as well as they should. Thankfully, mine here are doing all right, but if this was housed in the wrong environment, I'm guessing they would start to peel off pretty quickly, or if I was just too rough with it. Despite the limitations that the base plate offers, I feel that it is really used to enhance this set, and it definitely is a contributing factor in the outrageous aftermarket price on this set. If we take a step back and look at this as a whole, I think this is one of the best LEGO pyramids. Not that there's a lot of LEGO pyramids to choose from, but it's definitely one of the best LEGO Egyptian themed architectural things they've ever done. It's really just quite beautiful looking. Even the addition of the scorpion, which sounds outrageous, adds a lot here. I love how it frames the entrance here. And let's talk about that scorpion quickly. Of course, it can be taken off very easily. It just sits here on top, held in place by these parts of the balcony. All the detail you see on the scorpion is actually printed elements. Again, because it's going over multiple different curved surfaces, you can't sticker those on, so it's all printed. And they're gorgeous, gorgeous prints with various hieroglyphs, and of course the eyes for the creature as well. And the way that it just integrates into the pyramid is so perfect in my opinion. The pyramid looks better with the scorpion on it. There's a reason this is called Scorpion Pyramid. Can't have one without the other. Before we go inside, let's continue our trek around the outside. So I pointed out the scorpion pit, but of course there's a snake pit out here too on the other side with some really nice stickers. And even though the stickers can be a pain if you own this set, again, they are wonderful additions to really detail up what otherwise would have just been a flat, dark tan surface. And they're put all over the base, which is really nice. There are various functions included throughout the set too. The first one being that you can flip up the stairs and there's a scorpion underneath. You could hide your enemies under there, you can hide some treasure under there, and it's really quite seamless. You can tell like there's an extra plate up here, something might be going on, but I think for the most part it doesn't stand out in an obnoxious way, and I do love to see play features like that. If we go over to the far side here, you'll notice this interesting compartment built into the side of the base plate. You might recognize this very similar build from Rise of the Sphinx. It implies that we'll need some dynamite. So once we blow this up, That was a pretty good explosion. Inside, you'll find the sarcophagus of Amsa-Ra. And I can't really show you without taking... Wait a second, actually. I have another one of these base plates from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And you can see exactly what's going on here. So there's actually this open area here, and that's where the sarcophagus fits into. Again, a great use of the base plate and the features it has to add value to the set, making you think that this base plate was indeed designed for this set in particular, though, as you can see, it's come in other sets in years prior. Just a nice little Easter egg. We briefly saw this sarcophagus in the battle pack, but I can show you it in a bit more detail here. These pieces have actually been in production since the original adventures, which is really cool to see them brought back. The original sarcophagus lid would have featured some pretty intricate printing on it, which they have done away with here. Still, a necessary inclusion, and I'm glad that they kept this mold around all this time. There, we'll undo our destruction and head inside. So I'll take off the scorpion so you can see this a little better. Going up the stairs, you'll see at the top we are greeted with a wall. It's got two very nice Anubis stickers on it. There's a lot of stickers in this set, unfortunately, but those are actually a series of sliding doors which can be actuated using the gold cones on either side here just by spinning them in opposite directions. It would have been cool if they could have tied that mechanism together to be a single knob sort of thing, but that would have been a lot of pieces and a lot of work. And from behind, you can see what that mechanism is. It's just using one of those horizontal gears on either side. Before we go inside, I want to take a moment to appreciate the basic studs on top Lego construction that makes up most of this pyramid. Yes, we get some snot panels on the side, but I love how the facade just uses simple slopes yet again, much like we saw in Rise of the Sphinx. There's something very appealing about this classical Lego style. Even the use of the dark tan accents here to break up the monotonous tan. Simple yet very effective. It's great design work. Now we'll go on into the inside. So this is a dollhouse style set, and you can see the cutout open back. Unfortunately, there just wasn't a lot of room in the interior, and I do think they could have made better use of the space available to make it a little more majestic. As it is a little dark and crowded. Off to the left, you'll see the mechanism that we used to explode the TNT from earlier. It's just a simple lever that knocks the sarcophagus out. Beneath that lever is an extra treasure, another diamond, and a nice hieroglyph sticker below that on a 2x6 brick. On the other side is what is, for lack of a better word, a rather lame area to showcase the last treasure. It's just an upside down minifigure head that you can place the Nemesis on. It doesn't actually attach on there, so it can be easily removed, but I wish there was a little more grand area. Perhaps the space up here could have been better used to make a little more of a showcase area for this really important treasure. Just sticking it on a stand off to the side here seems a little silly. Up top is access to the balcony, which looks out over the front, and there is a trap which drops some bricks on you once you come in the front doors. I still think this could have been a better used space to display that beautiful golden headdress that was made for this theme. Even if the interior is a bit lackluster, I absolutely love the look of everything that's going on outside. It is without a doubt my favorite set in the theme, thanks in no small part to an excellent selection of minifigures, a really cool mythical beast, and a well-composed set that makes terrific use of the last Lego raised base plate we would ever get. It makes for a great finale to this really quite wonderful but short-lived theme. There's a lot about this theme that will forever be a mystery to us. To some extent, I think this was just meant to be a one-way thing. Presumably, part of the reason this theme was developed was to tie into Legoland parks and the Egyptian themed rides they had in those parks to give you something to buy after you came off the ride that felt like it lined up with that world. The name of this theme, Pharaoh's Quest, is quite the box in and of itself. Adventurers, you can do a lot more with that, and they did a lot more with that. They took that theme to areas all across the globe, but Pharaoh's Quest pretty much just locks you in ancient Egypt. I don't think this theme was meant to go beyond one wave, which is a little too bad because there's a lot more they could have offered us. There's a chance too that this theme just got buried down by a number of other great themes that were also available in 2011. Atlantis had its final wave of sets. There was a new fresh wave of Pirates of the Caribbean sets. Alien Conquest was now out on shelves. There seemed to be a particularly good lineup of city sets. There's also Hero Factory, which I'm sure was doing great. But there was just a lot to choose from, and maybe sales were poor because of that. I can't believe I missed out on this theme as a kid. I think it has a lot to offer to those nostalgic for adventures, but also to those who had never heard of the theme before. It's great, classic exploration fun, and something that especially now we really don't see that often from. But that's all for my thoughts on this really fascinating theme, because the furnace is now started up. But we're gonna finish this outro anyway because I'm too deep into it. So you have yourself a great life, and I'll see you next time.